Hello and welcome to the Premier League preview. It's a brand new show from us over at Hammers Chat Forum channel, and it's in conjunction with Football Index, the only app that allows you to trade and make profit in real-time actual players. I'm here with my partner in crime and, let's say, betting guru. Geo, how are you, my friend?
I'm not too bad, thank you. How are yourself?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Just been working my way through the Premier League fixtures, and we've got a humdinger this week. We've got a lot of fixtures, a full Premier League fixture list. But this week, we've got a very, very tasty Manchester derby with high-flying City playing against, shall we say, a slightly resurgent Manchester United in the league, with players like Anthony Martial perhaps playing a little bit better, and probably on the down, players like Romelu Lukaku. What do you make of this tasty fixture, Gio?
I think Man U's results are outweighing their performances. Actually, on paper, it looks like they're making a comeback. I don't think they are. They shouldn't. They're lucky to go in equal against Bournemouth last weekend. While Martial has found the net, Man U are just not at the races whatsoever at all. I think they're very lucky to have the results they've had so far. Actually,
so I mean, the talk is that Mourinho is under pressure, but he seems to have been under pressure since really from last season. There was that big fallout with Paul Pogba, which was someone had managed to get into the training ground and get the camera in there and film it. But then we had a press conference. I think it was possibly Tuesday's press conference, maybe. It was the Champions League press conference. And Paul Pogba was making out everything was rosy. I mean, what do you think that the dynamic is there with the manager and that team?
I think it's just egos, to be honest with you. When he first started out as manager, he came on the scene at Porto. He probably was the biggest ego over at Porto, with a team of, while they were known in Portugal, to the European continent, and if you like, as a team of unknowns largely, and that success was massive. He came to Chelsea, and I think he came to Chelsea at the right time, because while he had big players, I don't think the egos were such a thing there. Now at Man United, I think he's struggling a little bit to try and contain them, and that's the problem. You're going to buy £90 million players, they're going to come with an ego. And I think Pogba is a bigger player than Mourinho is as a manager.
So do you think, obviously you think it's more likely that Pogba will stay than Mourinho, but do you think that there's a portion of blame to be laid at Pogba's feet? I mean, he's a really talented player. We saw him play for France and he played so well. But surely, you know, Man United seem to be almost going behind. As we saw Bournemouth were unlucky, you mentioned it. They seem to have to be under the cosh before they pull out a performance. Surely somebody like Pogba should be big enough player to be able to produce it without getting a rocket in from the manager, you know?
I think that's where Pogba's frustration comes from, actually. I think he knows he's got the ability to do it, but I just think he probably feels that he's got a ball attached to his ankle, which has been put on by Mourinho, and he's not able to influence the games as much as he wants to. That probably frustrates him more than anybody else on the football pitch. You're right about Man, you've been under the cosh, actually, because in 5 of their 11 games so far this season, they've been losing after half an hour, and that is not a Jose Mourinho side. That is not a Man United side. What's happening this season?
No, he seems to certainly be making public utterances about his, should we say, lack of good central defenders, even though he's bought a couple of £30 million central defenders, but it doesn't seem to be enough for him at the moment. Now, with the Football Index, for those of you that don't know, as this series goes along, we'll hopefully be teaching you more about it. You're able to invest in players. It works almost like a stock market. In many respects, if you've played Fantasy League football and you're on the official Fantasy Premier League version, then as you'll know, when you buy a player and as their performances increase, so does their value. And this works very much like that. So what you do is you open an account, you deposit some money into the account, and then really you try and use your nous to hedge your bets on players that you think are going to increase in value. Now, in this one, I'm not the expert here. Gio is the expert. In this one, I'm guessing somebody like Anthony Martial, his stock would have risen recently. What are your thoughts on the players in this game?
De Gea and Pogba are your two safe bets for Man United. They will go up, but they're expensive to buy. So you're going to need a lot of bank to get those two in order to see the profits come. But the profits will come. Them two are dead certs. Martial, someone, you're right. His stock's going up because he's scoring, but also he's got this contract talks going on, and what can affect your share price massively in Football Index is the media talk. So you want your player to be in the media. Martial has put himself into the media by not signing a new deal at Man United. The more he scores, the more he's going to be in the paper. The more money he wants, the more he's going to be in the paper. There is a bit of irony there. The more paper Martial wants, the more he is in the paper. But that's where we can cash in. The only Man United player I personally invested in, I did at the start of the season with Jesse Lingard. He's not had a really good season. His shares actually depreciated. However, I'm keeping him because he's a young player, and I think with more game time, he's going to go back up in price. I don't think I'll lose money on Lingard. I'm just going to have to be a little bit patient to see my rewards on the Man United side of him.
Absolutely. Obviously, we've just discussed Manchester United. There is another team in this fixture, and they are the swashbuckling, let's say. Manchester City. Pep Guardiola seems to be carrying on where he left off. Leroy Sané was sort of in and out of the team, but he's come into the team in the last few games.
It's all about Aguero for me. He's been vested in Champions League midweek. He's got 8 and 9 against Man United. He loves the Manchester derby. He's been in fine form this season. And while I was talking about Man United being down after half an hour, Man City have been winning 8 of the 11 games. I'm going to take 32 minutes because Aguero scored in the 32nd minute, one of them. So I'm going to nudge out to 32 minutes. But in 8 of those games, they're averaging 3 goals a game in the Premier League, Man City. Mourinho's got a leaky defence. You can probably pick up a vibe. I can only see this one going one way, Gonzo. And also, the referee on Sunday is Martin Atkinson. He loves a booking. He loves a card. And this could be, if you're a football fan, make sure you watch the Manchester Derby on Sunday. Goals and cards.
Well, as we'll be doing with all the games, we'll be saying home win, draw, or away win. I'll let you say it. I don't want to speak for you. Tell us what it is, Gio.
It's a dead cert for me. It's a home win.
Yeah, I'm going to go along with that as well. For obvious reasons, I think we've explained why. But who knows? Maybe Man United, Jose Mourinho can get a performance out of Pogba and the other misfiring players. Maybe Sanchez is going to continue. He's come back to form. He's sort of eased his way back into form slightly. And obviously we've spoken about Martial, but I think possibly that game is won and lost by the wonderful array of attacking talent that Manchester City have at their disposal. Now, it's not a classic fixture list in terms of, I mean, that's the one what you would call massive game. And there was another one that really caught my attention, and it was Liverpool against Fulham. Now, Fulham spent massively this season. I mean, I think it was close to 100 million. I think you'd certainly look at our own team, West Ham. Wolves spent big, and I think that the surprise package was certainly Fulham. Yet they find themselves languishing at the bottom of the league. Now, the manager's stock, he had very, very high stock coming into it. We know we've got an ambitious chairman at Fulham who obviously was looking to buy Wembley. That's no longer going to happen. So I'm sure, having spent that money, didn't expect to see themselves, down the bottom of the league. And when I actually checked the league table, I thought Liverpool had a good start to the season. I'm sure they have, but Liverpool find themselves in 3rd position, albeit I think probably better off points-wise than they were last season. Your thoughts on this game, Gio?
It's an easy one to call again. I think Fulham, they might have spent 100 million, but the difference between them and us, for example, West Ham were spending 100 million on a Premier League established side. Fulham were spending 100 million pounds on a Championship side, and that's where the gulf is, and it's obvious. They're attacking. I think Fulham have got good options going forward, but their defence is just poor. He rung out the changes against Huddersfield. He had Alfie Mawson dropped to the bench, Callum Chambers dropped to the bench, and the players that came in didn't look any better than those ones. He's got serious problems at that back line against Fulham. They're leaking goals left, right and centre, and they're coming up against one of the most prolific sides in the country. If I was a Fulham fan, I'd be watching this game through my fingers, in all honesty. Klopp, since taking over at Liverpool, Klopp has had 8 games at home against promoted sides. He's won all 8. I think he scored 25 and conceded just 3. The stats do not look good for Fulham, whatever way you want to look at this.
No, from a football index point of view, I'm looking at players what's happened with their value. So you've got someone like Ryan Sessegnon. Now, his stock would have been quite high following last season. Was one of the best players in the Championship, of course. They've got promoted, and maybe he's not ripped up the Premier League in the way that many would have anticipated. I think possibly he's got 1 goal, which I think might have been against Cardiff. I think he had a good record against them in the Championship as well. But how would that work? Bearing in mind would his stock have risen? Has it dropped? How would that work with the index? Do you know?
He's still holding his own in the Premier League. His stock's still going up because just like the stock exchange in real life is driven by interest, is driven by what people are putting their money into. People are still putting their money into Ryan Sessegnon. His stock is only going to go up and up and up. We all know he's destined for a big club. He's going to be a top 6 club in the next year or two. I wouldn't be surprised if top 6 are looking and hoping Fulham go down, because then that's their opportunity to go get him from Fulham. And people on Football Index, I suppose, are also hoping Fulham go down as well, because then he can go to the top 6 and they will see their investment rise very, very quickly. As soon as he moves to a big club, their investment will go up straight away.
Okay, I mean, the opposite end of the scale in terms of age. What about someone like James Milner? I mean, he's featured prominently for Liverpool this season. Would his value have gone up?
Oh, very unlikely. The older players in the Football Index tend to be quite cheap for a reason. And that's because how could his value go up? You're investing very short term in James Milner. There is not long term there to go. For me personally, I tend to stick to the younger 20-year-olds and teenagers, etc. on Football Index, because what would James Milner have to do for his price to go up? He would probably have to win the title and become PFA Player of the Year or something. It's very, very unlikely. So for me personally, I avoid all the older players. Anyone 30 or above, it's a no for me.
No, I just thought maybe because I think people were expecting Keita to come back in, maybe Oxlade-Chamberlain to have come back from injury sooner than he has done. They brought the lad over from Monaco as well, of course. I just wondered, because maybe he wasn't expected to be in the team this season, but he's found himself to be an integral part of it. I mean, Liverpool themselves, they're not quite clicking like they were, although aside from their European adventure, let's say this week, they're more resolute in defence because of Van Dijk. You know, what a player he's been.
Yeah, exactly. They brought him in, and Alisson in goal as well. Makes a big difference as well, having a keeper that can play the way Klopp wants to play. I know we're predicting the win sheet, but this is just a plain, straightforward home win for me in this one, Gonzo. I think it's going to be a hiding at Anfield for Fulham, unfortunately. I watched them on Monday against Huddersfield, who were obviously playing, and it was two terrible teams, and the football was dire, and I would not be surprised if both of them were in the Championship next season.
Yeah, I actually clicked on. I had a little flutter on that one, and let me say, it didn't go my way. And I thought I'd hedge my bets as well. I think I'd gone Fulham or draw, but hey ho, I would have lost either way, so we're going to go for both teams to score, which wouldn't have worked either. But yeah, absolute drubbing for Fulham. I just wonder how long the chairman is gonna stay with it. I seem to remember someone tweeting during the week actually and suggesting that maybe you might find old Sam Allardyce back in there and it'll be hoofball to stay up. But I'm pretty sure somebody will be pressing the panic button and getting Big Sam in at some point. Home win from me, in case you didn't guess. Next on the fixtures that stand out for me, Chelsea versus Everton. Now, Everton, they're a funny one. Again, they've spent very, very big, and their record signing this summer was Richarlison, who I know you're a fan of. You liked him at Watford, Geo.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of him. I think the kid's got a lot of talent. I don't think he was 50 million in summer, but I'm confident he would grow into a 50 million pound player at Everton. I would argue he's now worth 50 million because of his goal scoring spree so far. He's moved into a striker role. So if you're on Football Index, this is where you need to be a little bit crafty, and this is where your knowledge comes in. If you can pick up on that he is going to be playing in a striker role before he actually does, then that's where you can really cash in. It's something that's happening in the Premier League this season a lot, actually. We did it with Arnautovic last season. Palace have done it with Zaha. Now Everton are doing it with Richarlison. There's just not that many good Premier League proven strikers out there. There's 10, I'd say, and half of them are at the top 6. Out of that, you've got the likes of Callum Wilson and Jamie Vardy. Mitrovic at Fulham is doing well. But there's a lot of clubs in the Premier League without an outstanding Premier League striker. So a lot of managers are having to look to their wingers that can put the ball in there and say, you go up front. It fits with the counter-attacking style of the Premier League as well. Get your fast, strong player and get him up front and get him to put the goals in. Everton are benefiting it because it also takes away Silva's dilemma of what do you do when you've got Sigurdsson, Bernard and Walcott and Richarlison? Who do you leave out? Well, none of them. We put all 4 of them in. We stick Richarlison up front. He's fantastic in the air. He's got a fantastic left foot. He's fast. He can make the runs behind. And the best thing about Richarlison, he's got Sigurdsson playing behind him. He's been a revelation this season at the Goodison Park. His stats might not show that, but I think Sigurdsson's been brilliant for the Blues.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Somebody else who stands out, which clearly Sigurdsson. It's funny and interesting what you said about the strikers, though, because as you know, I like my old 442 magazines, and I was looking through a few old ones, blowing them, dusting them off, and I found a really old one. And there was a list of strikers in there who were all sort of playing at the same time. There was Robbie Fowler, there was Alan Shearer, there was Andy Cole, there was Teddy Sheringham, there was Les Ferdinand. There was just a load of strikers who all used to score 20 goals a season. And most of them were English as well. And I just thought that role, what you said sort of rings true, that role of the striker, of somebody that just puts the ball in the back of the net, it's really changed. You mentioned Sergio Aguero earlier. There used to be lots of players like that who would do that job. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think he'll be an all-time great, Sergio Aguero. I think he just scored his 150th Premier League goal, if I'm not much mistaken. I think possibly only Rooney and Thierry Henry had done that. But there were just a lot of strikers who scored goals in that volume. And maybe you're right. Maybe this is, we're seeing goals shared out more. And also players like Arnautovic, like Richarlison, being shoehorned into there. Their opponents, of course, Chelsea, are having a really, really good season. Surely, with the new manager, everyone was miserable under Conte. They're funny. They're funny, Chelsea. I do find them funny because I've seen them do it under Mourinho as well. The players down tools. And they did it under Villas-Boas. They did it under Felipe Scolari. I don't know, for the most part, they're different players. I just wonder if it's something to do with the dynamic of the owner being there, with him being sort of so omnipotent, that actually the players think whoever's manager's not the boss anyway. I feel for Conte's last season, to a certain extent, they down tools, particularly somebody of Eden Hazard's calibre. I think there's something in that. But anyway, new manager, new Chelsea, it seems.
Yeah, unbeaten this season still. Everyone's waiting for their first defeat. I'm not sure it's going to be Everton. Everton haven't won at Stamford Bridge since 1994. So the stats don't fit well with Everton, although they're in very, very good form, Everton. Their result last weekend, 3-1 against Brighton. Impressive result considering how Chris Hughton sets up as well. But Chelsea, watched them against Crystal Palace last week. Very possession-based. It's what Chelsea want to see. And well, whenever Palace got the ball and broke, they looked dangerous, Palace. They looked reasonably dangerous on the counter-attack. And that's Palace, who cannot score. Palace just can't score this season. Just speak about no strikers. They literally don't have one. But Chelsea look good. They should have Hazard starting this weekend, which will make a massive difference. You can tell when he's not on the pitch. They are missing that person that's just going to carry them and take them from 1 point to 3 like that. They are missing that, but they look impressive, Chelsea. It's possession-based football, what they want to see. You're right about player power, but the interesting thing is the players that were there for the first player power under Mourinho are different to what there is now. So there's nobody still there. Even John Terry's left and stuff. There's no one the same, but yet the attitude is still there, which is interesting. But they've got what they want in Saturday so far. And I think it'll be a good game. This could be a good game, actually. I think we'll see goals at Stamford Bridge this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be getting a little bit tuned out. And Morata seems to be sort of coming into a little bit of form. Of course, you've got Pedro, William Hazard, who you've mentioned, and Alonso. Well, you look at players like Alonso, maybe even Ross Barkley from a Football Index point of view. They're guys to invest in. Or has he already reached his peak, someone like Alonso?
Alonso's probably already near his peak. It's difficult to... I think you need a big bank if you're going to invest in players like that, because you're going to have to be patient. And it's also knowing when to cash out, because eventually, if he isn't at his peak, he's not going to be far off it. So you're just going to have to predict that when he does hit his peak to get out, because I've seen a lot of people make a mistake with Mo Salah last season, because he was so good. They thought he'd hit his peak, so they cashed out, but actually he just got better and better, and his price just kept going up, and people bailed too early. They cashed in too early. But I think Ross Barkley is a prime example in this one. And it's also trying to keep your eye. We've got January coming around the corner. You have to be looking at clubs like Chelsea and thinking, is there going to be any moving and shaking at Stamford Bridge? And if so, who are they going to be going again? Because there's always the top players in Europe who are scoring the goals in Bundesliga and Serie A, for example. They're not as expensive as the Premier League, but if you can find one that's going to be coming to the Premier League, that will affect the price like that. Morata's got 4 and 4 now. You're right about Morata. He's got a little bit of swagger about him, which he didn't have. And funnily enough, you're talking about where are the strikers. He's someone, him and Lukaku are prime examples. They're at the top 6, but they're not consistent enough for the top 6. There's just no options. There's just no alternatives. So they've got to pursue with him. He's got 4 and 4. Could get another one this weekend.
Yeah. So you're thinking, obviously, home win?
A narrow home win, with Everton scoring as well.
Yeah, I might just go for the draw on that one. I've never been convinced with Silva's defences, I have to say. But I think the point you made about Crystal Palace, I think, was probably right. I make you sort of right on that one. So I think Everton probably do have enough. And somebody like Seamus Coleman coming back into form, I think will certainly really help. I mean, goodness, they've spent a lot of money, Everton. They should have enough players to trouble even the very best teams. Now, we're not going to go into detail on every single game, but the last one I want to touch on in detail, and we will give predictions on every single one, by the way, is I just think it's quite an interesting one, really, and that is Crystal Palace versus Tottenham. Now, Palace it's obviously a London derby. Palace are such a sort of one-man team, or so it would seem. That, Wilfried Zaha has almost been responsible for a lot of their points, but I actually think the much maligned Benteke coming out of their team, they've lost a focal point. I think Benteke used to occupy a lot of defenders and allowed Zaha to do a lot of his work. So I just wonder if that has been it. They've only got 8 points from 11 games. Old Roy Hodgson would be looking for a lot better than that. Tottenham, of course, vastly different. I mean, 4th place in the league, terrible in Europe, very, very good in the Premier League. Your thoughts on this game, Gio?
Well, you say Palace have only got 8 points. They've only got 8 goals this season as well. Zaha's got 3 of them. They've not scored from open play at Selhurst Park this season. They scored 2 against Arsenal last weekend, but it was both on the penalty spot. They've not scored from the open play. That's where their problems lie massively. You talk about no Benteke. Their next option for a striker is Jordan Ayew. There's a reason Swansea got relegated. It's because they had Jordan Ayew. And so why Palace think buying that guy that couldn't score for Swansea is going to solve their goal-scoring problems, I do not know. And guess what? It's not solved their goal-scoring problems. They are struggling. Zaha's struggling on his own. He's playing well, but the team around him are they're not up to his standard, and you can see that. Spurs, on the other hand, won 6 of their 7 away games. They look good on the road in the Premier League so far, and actually getting beat in the Champions League or struggling in the Champions League has probably motivated them for the Premier League. But they won this weekend in the Champions League, but that last minute winner, we all know it gives you a morale boost, and Palace, it doesn't look good for them.
No, and of course, during that game, Eric Lamela gave it the old cheeky elbow, of course. But he would be someone in the Tottenham team. Obviously, Harry Kane's back in the goals. I think maybe scored a couple in Europe, and he's back in the goals in the league as well. But someone like Eric Lamela, he's somebody you'd look at to invest in.
He could be. Him and Lucas are probably their 2 best informed players, in my opinion, right now. Them 2 look really good. The 2 Spurs players I would recommend investing in, but on my head, be it. The first one's Harry Winks. I think he is, the more I see of him, the more I'm impressed by him, the way he controls the game, etc. He's going to be a big, big player. His price is already on the rise, but I still think there's plenty for it to go, so get on it now. Another one is their centre-back, Foyth. I think he's 4th in the pecking order. There's no shame being behind Alexis Sanchez, Alderweireld and Vertonghen. No shame in that. He's getting plenty of game time at Spurs right now because of the amount of competitions they're in. He's only going to get better and better as well. Those 2 players. You can also look at the other younger players. They've got a couple of young fullbacks coming through as well, but Spurs is one club that I think buy young players. So as soon as they look at a young player, then we should be looking at a young player as well.
Yeah, I mean, Foyth, whatever his name is, when he played against us, West Ham, I thought he looked really, really good. And he had actually had an unfortunate weekend when they played Wolves. I think it was maybe was responsible for a couple of goals, penalties, something. I don't know. He didn't have a great game, but he does look to be a really, really good player. And do you know what? On paper, particularly with Kane back in the goals, Dele Alli back to. Started coming back to fitness as well. A lot of their big players. Tottenham should win it at a canter and win it comfortably. But, I think Roy Hodgson has not had the career he's had without being able to organise a defence. So I'm not sure if Crystal Palace might make it a little bit tougher than it needs to be. I'm tempted to go for a draw, but I'm actually obviously going to go for the Tottenham win. What about yourself?
Spurs win for me as well, Gonzo.
Okay, there we go. We'll just quickly rattle through some of the other fixtures. We won't go into too much detail, but we've got Arsenal and Wolves, and just something I probably want to touch on. I don't know how much you saw because I know you were away this weekend, but Wolves brought on a player called Morgan Gibbs-White. I only saw it on Match of the Day that they were going absolutely crazy about this kid. He looked absolutely brilliant, and maybe that would be somebody to invest in the football index, but certainly they look to have a real good player on their hands. Did you see him at all, Gio?
No, I'm afraid I didn't. No.
Very, very, very good, very impressive indeed. Came on, I think it's for the last 20 minutes, and caused Tottenham all sorts of trouble, real problems. A very, very talented player, and that's no easy thing to get into that midfield there. They got the 2 Portuguese central midfielders, Moutinho and Neves, of course, but He looks very, very good. Your thoughts on Arsenal v Wolves? What are we going for there, Gio?
I'm going to go for a home win. We spoke about strikers earlier. Arsenal have two of the best strikers in the league. I think Lacazette's going to finish top goal scorer in the league, actually. I know he's not leading the charts just now, and Aubameyang scored more than him. While Lacazette's goal at the weekend is a goal that I liked against Liverpool, he knew where the goal was. He didn't need to look up. He shoots on sight quite a lot, Lacazette. As soon as he's in that box, he knows where the goal is. And I think it should be a thing all strikers do, but not all strikers do. And that is when as soon as they get the ball, they don't even need to look where the goal is. They just instinctively know where they are. They know what they're trying to do. Lacazette's got that. I like that. That's my betting tip, if you like. If you can get a good odds on Lacazette finishing top goal scorer.
Yeah,
Wolves are struggling. Wolves are struggling. They've lost 3 in a row. They can't score goals, Gonzo. They just can't score goals. Home win for me.
Yeah, spent a lot of money, didn't they? But yeah, maybe they was it Jimenez, I think, or is that his name that plays up front for them? Yeah, he seems to go close a lot, you know. He's had a lot of misses, hit the post a lot, that sort of thing. But yeah, maybe they should have invested some of that money elsewhere in the team. We've got Newcastle against Bournemouth. Of course, Newcastle, who you know, are breathing a sigh of relief at the moment. I think the pressure was actually starting to build on Rafa Benitez there, even amongst those very, very loyal and very grateful Toon fans up there. Who, Mike Ashley, of course, is the bad guy, and Rafa Benitez is the saviour. I think the tide was about to turn, so I mean, he'll be breathing a sigh of relief there. But Newcastle host Bournemouth. I don't know if that is the longest journey in the Premier League. I'd imagine it is, isn't it? But Bournemouth, what a team. Eddie Howe's team, in terms of the Football Index, take your pick, you know. Either the wide attacking players for Bournemouth, I'm sure, are good investments. Just a quick word on Bournemouth, Gio.
Very impressive. They're impressing me a lot. Lewis Coote, Nathan Ake, 2-person investment on Bournemouth. Young English players getting loads of Premier League time. Callum Wilson, banging form, scored 4 goals away from home this season. Only Harry Kane has scored more away from home as well. So there's a goal scorer. There's sometimes in football I call things a fake result. Newcastle beating Watford for me was a fake result. I've only seen the highlights, of course. Watford should have scored at least 1 in that game as well. I wouldn't be getting your hopes up if I was a Newcastle fan. Strange stat, 5 of the last 7 goals when these two teams meet have been scored in the last 10 minutes of the game. Maybe we're going to do some, so maybe don't tune into this game until the 80th minute of the weekend. But I'm going to go for an away win on this one, Gonzo.
Okay, I mean, I love Bournemouth's balance. I love wingers and the centre forwards, and it sounds ever so simple, doesn't it? But I mean, it's just everybody plays in their correct position, and Eddie Howe just knows what he's doing. I think that's his dream job. I'm actually going to go with a draw because I just think it's such a long journey. I think it's a tough place to go, and I think a little bit of confidence in the Newcastle team will do wonders. We've also got Huddersfield versus West Ham. West Ham, our team. If you want to know our opinions on that, I'm afraid you're going to have to tune in to our preview, which is on our other channel. This is the Hammers Chat Forum channel. The other channel is Hammers Chat. So just you need to be subscribed to both to get all the content. So please do that now, and don't forget to press the bell underneath where it says subscribe, and join us for the Huddersfield West Ham preview. The link will be in the description below, and I'll even put it at the end of this video. We've got Leicester against Burnley. Well, you know, it's been tough. Horrible times for Leicester, Geo, and for very, very different reasons, and for footballing reasons. Burnley have been getting a pasting recently.
Yeah, they've conceded at least 4 in the last 3 games, Burnley, and it's not going to be a pleasant thing to know that they're coming up against Leicester, who are the only side in Premier League to scored in all 11 games so far. You can guess where I'm going to go, Gons. I'm going to go for a home win on this one. As much as Leicester had an emotionally tough game last weekend, which they got a win, which was against a side that is, while Cardiff are not great, it's a nitty-gritty place to go. They did well to get out of it, and I sort of feel bad for saying this, but Leicester do have the best motivation in the world right now, and I think that's going to be more than enough against Burnley. That and their talent, and what we've seen Burnley last weekend, they're awful at the minute, and there's calls for Dyche to go already by the faithful, and I'm going to go for a win for the Foxes.
Yeah, so would I, and I would just be mindful that I think Burnley Dyche has done an excellent job there. I think even if Burnley did go down, and there's nothing to say that they will at the moment, that Dyche should stay in position because he's already shown that he could get them promoted. So, he's done a remarkable job there. But I mentioned with Bournemouth, I think Bournemouth have got a team with balance. I think the same with Leicester. I really do. Got defensive midfielders where you need defensive midfielders, attacking ones where you need attacking ones. They've got wide players who can dribble, cross. They've got strikers, and they've got a variation as well. They got Vardy who can get in behind, perhaps some more silky Iheanacho, of course, and really, really good central defenders. The fullbacks we've discussed before. If you're a regular watching this channel, we both like the fullbacks, Chilwell and Pereira. It's got to be a Leicester win for me as well. We're going on to Southampton versus Watford. Watford, you spoke of the freak result, of course. You just spoke about there, but Southampton under Mark Hughes not doing too well at all, Gio. I mean, are you going to surprise me with your prediction here?
No, you're not, and I'm not surprised at how Southampton are struggling either, because Mark Hughes struggled at Stoke. He went to a side who were very similar on paper, and he's struggling there. Where's the shock? There shouldn't be one, but there seems to be one. Saints are in free fall right now. They've not won in 7. They're heading in one direction, and they better pray that the likes of Huddersfield and that keep struggling. Otherwise, they're going to soon find themselves in the Championship. Decore, believe it or not, Decore has scored in these last 3 games against Southampton, but on the other side, for Southampton, Nathan Redmond has got 4 goals and assists in his last 4 games against Watford. So those are 2 players who like playing each other. But I've got a feeling it's going to be Watford that likes playing Southampton a little bit more this weekend. I like Danny Ings. I'm a big fan of Danny Ings, as you know. But I think Watford's going to have too much for Danny Ings. And I'm going to go win.
Yeah, maybe. Did he have Danny Ings score at the weekend? Maybe he did. I think he might have done.
He did, and he's also the only striker to have scored against Man City in the league this season.
Yeah, sure. I like Watford for different reasons to what I said about Bournemouth and Leicester. Watford are really well drilled. They're really well organised, and obviously Pereira's been in fantastic form as well. Deulofeu obviously does ever so well for them. I think for a lot of people, their manager was the favourite for the sack this season, but he's done wonders, earned himself a new contract, which is no mean feat at Watford, because they do like to get rid of their managers. I'm going for the away win here as well. I just wonder if in Premier League terms Mark Hughes is a busted flush. Be interested to know what you think in the comments below. Finally, Cardiff City, who perhaps had maybe an unfortunate timing with their trip to Leicester City. I mean, it was tough for anybody that was going to go there, tough on Leicester, tough on anyone that's going to be there, because obviously, rightly so, the main event would have been centred around the tragic loss of life of Leicester City's owners. But Cardiff are back home for this one, and they are playing Chris Hughton's Brighton, who was going very well, Gio.
Yeah, and sorry, but Cardiff were at home last weekend, not Leicester. Cardiff are a funny old team. I thought they'd go down, but they seem to, whenever watching, they seem to be putting up a battle. But again, a bit like Palace, they just can't score. And the teams that get relegated at the end of the season, Gonzo, are not the teams that have conceded the most. It's the teams that have scored the least. Goals keep you up. Clean sheets don't keep you up, but goals do. And Cardiff just cannot score. They only got 2 players that have scored more than 1 all season, and that's not good for them at all. I know they scored 4 against Fulham a couple of weeks ago. That doesn't count in my book or yours, because Fulham are just that bad defensively. But Brighton, well, interestingly, Brighton, despite how well they did last season, they only won 2 games away from home all season, and they've already won 1 away from home this season at St James's Park. So if they were to win at Cardiff, they'd equal their wins away from last season. It's only in the middle of November. Law of averages suggests Cardiff aren't going to lose every home game. And law of averages suggests Brighton are going to struggle on the road a little bit. They've only got 1 goal scorer themselves, Brighton and Glenn Murray. But if he keeps scoring, what's the problem? But I think it's going to be a draw for this one. This is the only draw I'm predicting this weekend, Gonzo.
Oh, that's a tough one, actually. I mean, funny enough, I asked the question. I hadn't really thought too much about the answer. Yeah, I mean, you said about the goal scorers. Cardiff City have none and Brighton have 1. Although I think the guy up front, maybe his name's Reed or something. He does look sharp, but almost without threatening. And I do believe he scored quite a few goals in the Championship. But you look at Murray. Murray is a journeyman himself, but Houghton just seems to just keep getting a tune out of him. And I thought when they signed him, because I believe he was Crystal Palace before, and I thought then he was maybe a little bit past it, but he keeps proving people wrong, proving his manager right, and I went to Brighton. I went away to Brighton against West Ham. He needed one chance and he popped it away. And I actually, for some reason, I think Cardiff are going to win this. I just do. When I watched Brighton in that game, I thought I didn't see an awful lot apart from that clinical bit. I didn't see an awful lot from them, and I do think Cardiff are going to make it very, very tough for them. I think they're probably going to rough them up. Having said that, Brighton's two centre backs can probably handle a roughing up, but I just got a feeling that Cardiff might well win this, even though the odds say no. And therein finishes our prediction for the Premier League. I mean, it's going to be a very, very interesting weekend. We've got the fantasy football coming up. I've swapped my teams in and out, and although we're not going into the West Ham Huddersfield game, I have actually drafted Dean Garner into my fantasy league team. And just quickly, Geo, on the football index, he was someone you were speaking about earlier.
Yeah, on today, at time of recording, Football Index obviously have the top 10 sort of trending players, who's on the rise and who's on the decrease. Dean Garner is actually second for his price going up. So you haven't already got, and you perhaps missed the boat. However, if you think he's going to stay in the first team at West Ham, now's the time to go again, because his price is only going to go. The more he plays, the more he's going to be worth it. As simple as that. He still hasn't scored a goal yet, you remember. So as soon as he gets that goal for West Ham, his price is just going to go up.
Yeah, who was first?
I don't know. It's a player I've never heard of. But that just shows you the beauty of Football Index. You need to know.
You do. Do your research. There you go. Unlike me, be like Geo. Do your research. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to keep this going. We are going to keep. We'll have Premier League previews every week that there's a Premier League. So let's just hope they don't keep stopping it with those pesky international breaks, particularly the testimonial ones. You know what I mean. Geo, thank you very much, sir.
No problem at all. Thank you, Gonzo.
Thank you very much. As Gio always says, if you're new around here, please do press the subscribe button. Don't forget to join us on our preview for this up-and-coming weekend. Then we're going to have a review straight away after the game. So join us on the main channel for that. Until next time, thank you very much.